Okay, so I said on a previous video that I would do this video. I probably won't make another video on listovative lists, but this is just so hilariously bad, this website. Not saying that it's the worst, could be worse. Maybe I'm just running across bad authors. But let's see. 10 reasons Donald Trump shouldn't win the US presidential election. Okay, so now before we start, I have to say, by the way, link to the actual article is in the description. I'm not actually showing it because they have a copyright, and I don't really want to have to worry about how fair the use is, and fair use and all that. So I'll just quote and commentary. But let's get this out of the way. I do not approve of Donald Trump. I'll probably end up voting for him anyway because, you know, lesser of two evils thing, because Hillary is worse in many aspects. But, so I'm hoping to see some pretty valid criticisms that I've probably heard before so that I can substantiate them. But I'm not really expecting that. I'm probably... This is probably not criticism from any Republicans who have disagreements on policy and stuff. This is probably from the other side of the aisle who just want to badmouth him if they really want to. Fair enough. Actually, it's a pretty toxic thing about politics. Speaking about Donald Trump, you know, everything about career politicians and stuff that people don't like, and they say, oh, we don't want a politician, no, we don't want that, and then they go for Donald Trump, somebody who plays golf with all these different politicians, someone who in business he puts himself first above his company. That's actually why his companies went bankrupt. His companies went bankrupt and he got rich. And who knows how to work the system, how to get old ladies kicked out of their homes, good old eminent domain. How does a non-politician accomplish that? Well, by pulling some strings, making some backdoor deals. And I'm thinking, isn't he the exact thing about all these politicians that people don't want? But then they say, oh, he speaks his mouth. And I'm thinking, that's not necessarily a good thing. But anyway, let's get started. Let's enough criticism about Trump. Let's see what this person criticizes about Trump. Mr. Sayan Banerjee, please do not go after this person. Do not harass this person in any way. An engineering undergrad student. Okay, let's see what this is. This is hopefully a grammatical level above the other one. Hopefully a few levels above the other one. Okay, we all know this man, right? End quote. Yeah. Actually, I don't know him. I've never met him. Quote, I am talking about a jest, and a bad one at that too, an unintelligent dolt who inherited his wealth from his father and made a name with it, end quote. Actually, I don't really have any commentary right now. Why did I end quote? Quote, yes, I am speaking about Mr. Donald Trump, who is the prime contender for the Republican Party for the presidential election for the POTUS, end quote. For those of you who do not know what a POTUS is, that's short for President of the United States. But, OCD! Why don't you actually just write it out? OCD! No, just joking. I don't have OCD. Quote, as the election approaches, the Republican Party are hoping for a win against Mrs. Hillary Clinton. And, wait, who has been nominated as a presidential candidate for the Democrats after Bernie Sanders dropped out. End quote. That's wrong. You cannot call her Mrs. Hillary Clinton. It's Mrs. Hillary Rodham Clinton. She's got a double last name, all right? Kept her maiden name. Get it right. I don't really like Clinton. I don't like either of them. Quote, the Republican side was a mess, and everybody suddenly wanted to contest for presidency. There were initially 17 candidates from the Republican Party with respect to 6 of the Democrats, but the Republicans started dropping out soon as they realized the heat of the issue. But Mr. Trump did show some backbone, which he doesn't have, and is now the most serious prospect for the Republicans. Okay, there's so much wrong with what just happened there. First of all, the Republican side was a mess because everybody suddenly wanted to contest for presidency. I think that would be a valid argument if after the convention everybody wanted to contest for presidency. But before the convention, okay, but they're actually saying that it's a mess because there were 17 candidates to begin with rather than the 6 of the Democrats. In other words, what does more candidates rather than less mean? It means that maybe more of them think that they can do a better job than the other party. Okay. It also means that maybe the party does not have as much of a top-down structure. And it also means that, as in the party isn't as rigged, that's if we talk about recent issues. And it also means that there's more variety to choose from. Oh my goodness, variety? We don't want variety, do we? Yeah, even though I think it really got whittled down to one of the lesser candidates. Of course, same thing with the past 2 elections. Republicans always decide to last minute go for progressive when they should actually be going for a someone at their for a free market capitalist, but no, they go for progressive, and we've got Donald Trump. Okay, dropping out because they realized the heat of the issue. Who dropped out because they realized the heat of the issue? They dropped out, okay, because they were not getting votes. That's why they dropped out. They dropped out because they were not successful in the election. It has nothing to do with the heat of the issue, because they all knew what the president is, and they were all willing to some degree to take that mantle of responsibility. It's just that they dropped out because they just weren't popular enough. But Mr. Trump did show some backbone, which he doesn't have. Make up your mind, does Trump have backbone or doesn't he have it? If you say that he shows backbone, you can't just say that he doesn't have it. And you're saying that Donald Trump is the winner because he showed backbone. You're implying that all the other ones were cowards and ran away from the heat of the issue, which implies that the heat of the issue is the other party, because they're saying that Donald Trump was also affected by the heat of the issue, to which he had to show backbone, which he then doesn't have. This is so messed up. This is terrible. I'm just saying it's just logically paradoxical in so many different ways, that, and also unrealistic. They're implying that the winner is the one who's not a coward, even though others actually tried to win. Okay. Quote, the media hype and coverage Donald Trump gets for his stupid and senseless comments. The entire world knows him by now and has acknowledged he is nobody but a wealthy man with a bad hairstyle. End quote. Let's just stop right there. Have you ever heard of the Trump train? And there are people getting on the Trump train, and you can't say the entire world, because number one, you do not know everybody in the entire world. Number two, there are people that actually support Trump, so that obviously negates your argument. Your argument is fallacious in that sense. So Third argument against that? Not really. Just oh, ad hominem. Stupid, senseless comments. There you go, ad hominem. Because, okay. Quote, still, some people in America do believe he should be the next president. And here I list 10 reasons why Donald Trump should not be the next president of the United States of America. Maybe this article will change your mind about Trump. And if it doesn't, my best consolations to you. End quote. Does this writer honestly think that this article is going to change anybody's mind about Donald Trump after you've ad hominemed against him? Ad hominem is a conversation ender. If you go around putting an ad hominem on on some leader, the people that follow that person will not listen to what you have to say because they think that you are not civil and are not capable of debating like an adult. Which is why some people don't debate certain people. It's because those people ad hominems and cannot debate in a mature manner. But I'm not saying that you're not mature, dear writer. Maybe you are. Maybe that was just a slip of the old keyboard. Okay. Number 10. He has no idea about what he says. Quote, you cannot think of him as president because he says idiotic things that don't even make sense. At any point of time, he himself doesn't know about his position on things. End quote. Let me just say one thing. The things he says do make sense. He is capable of forming coherent sentences. They might not be college-level sentences. He's appealing to the mobilum vulgaris, the uneducated masses. But he himself doesn't know about his position on things. Now, this article, according to the top of it, it says written 2 days ago. Recently, his positions have been solidifying, even though before he actually, earlier in the primary, he really didn't elaborate on his positions. He didn't give the math. He didn't give any numbers, which is one of the reasons why I did not vote for him in the primary, because he just was not specific on his policies, and it's important to be specific. If you wanted somebody specific, you could have gone with Ted Cruz, but that's another story. Okay. Quote, just because he doesn't have to back up what he says, he makes the stupidest comments in public. End quote. That is correct. He says mean things and things that are untrue without any evidence to back them up. Prime example, probably the most common one, is good old Lion Ted. What did Ted lie about, Trump? Please tell us. Oh, Ted's a liar. Well, what did he lie about? I don't know. Good old that Lion Ted thing. Well, not that Trump is any more honest than Ted, because let's be honest, he's not. Okay. Quote, my question to you is, how do you believe a mere real estate guy to be president? Maybe in American history, this is the first candidate who knows nothing about how a government works and came so far in the presidential race. End quote. Number one, I don't think he's the first one to get this far in a race, exactly, but he is actually, out of all the presidents, he has had the least government positions, government qualifications in that sense. However, he is a politician. And you might say, whoa, he's a real estate guy. How can he be a politician? Well, as I said earlier, he makes all these deals with these people. He goes to golf with all these different politicians. And that's how he can get people evicted from their homes. It's because he is actually a lobbyist. Ooh, maybe even worse than a politician. But not necessarily the worst thing, but still pretty bad. And real estate guy, just because you're a real estate guy doesn't mean you shouldn't be president. In fact, there are no restrictions to your profession as to be president, well, except for maybe being in prison. That's an obvious one. Quote, ban on Muslim, ban on immigration. What the hell? Most of America is run by immigrants. Don't believe me? Here's a fact. 40% of all Fortune 500 companies are founded by immigrants. End quote. Okay. Ban on Muslim. I'm pretty sure he changed his position on that before you wrote this article. Now, that being said, that still does not justify what he said earlier. That's wrong. Ban on immigration, he did not say that. He said ban on illegal immigration and on Muslim immigration was the thing that he said earlier. Most of America is run by immigrants. Don't believe me? Here's a fact. 40% of all Fortune 500 companies are founded by immigrants. And how many of those are founded by illegal immigrants? Now, that's a question. And another question is, what actual percentage of the U.S. population is first-generation immigrants? Not as much as 40%, that's for sure. Okay. And by first-generation immigrants, I mean people that moved to the country. People that are born in the country are, by definition, natives. Okay, so he has no idea about what he says. I think Trump is actually knows a lot about what he says, and he words things in certain ways in order to really appeal to certain groups. Not that I like the groups to which he's appealing, but it's his political thing. Number 9, he's racist and hates Muslims. He's a racist and hates Muslims. Wow, that's some very bold claims. Let's see how you back them up. Quote, Donald Trump has also disgraced himself on Twitter with his racial tweets. In one of his tweets, he said that Black and Latino people commit the most number of crimes in America. End quote. Let's stop right there and look at some, well, let's not actually look at some statistics, but because we don't need to know this, we actually need to know this, but we don't actually need to look at this because this is widely known statistics. If you look at statistics, at the total number of crimes committed, or the percentage of number of crimes committed, you'll see that if you add Blacks and Latinos together, Blacks and Latinos happen by circumstance to commit more crimes than the rest of the population. Now, this does not imply that they are ethnically prone to crime. It just is a fact that by circumstance, they just happen to commit more crimes. And I think it probably has to do with self-segregation and a desire to create a separate community, which means that it makes a small community, and then if there's a problem in the community, then the problem can echo chamber itself and explode, which is problematic. So if you take a look at that, what he said is actually literally factual, and therefore, and also does not in itself imply racism. Therefore, that is not a racist comment. Okay, quote, he also went on to said that he has no problem in the immigration of Europeans to America, but he strictly said that people from the south of America shouldn't be let inside the great country. Why, sir? Why do you have so much hate for minorities? I am not saying he is a blatant racist, but he walks and speaks like one. End quote. Number 1, if you're not saying that he's a blatant racist, as in somebody who's explicitly racist, then you can't actually prove that he's a racist. Okay? And also, he has repeatedly said that he is for legal immigration and against illegal immigration. And that doesn't And so I don't really think that there's that distinction between Europeans and South Americans. But of course, there may be, and if there is, please tell me in the comments below. I'd really be interested in seeing that. If there is something that Trump has said that is actually explicitly racist, please do quote it to me. But so far, no evidence yet. Quote, he doesn't seem to like Muslims too. End quote. Number one, you don't have to like Muslims to not hate Muslims, okay? Just because you don't like Muslims doesn't mean you hate Muslims. Just because you don't like pizza doesn't mean you hate pizza. Because like is a positive word, hate is a negative word, so maybe he's just neutral on Muslims. But actually, let's actually get a bit more specific on what he says. Quote, he called for banning everyone who is not a Christian from the country. He seems to have a special disdain for Muslims too when he said that Muslims will not be allowed to the country if he is the president because of security issues and to prevent terrorism. End quote. Number one on this, I personally do not know if Trump is a Christian. Of course, he claims to be, and maybe he is. So I'll give him the benefit on doubt on that. Number two, I do not recall him ever saying that only Christians should be allowed into the country, because there are a lot of people in the country who are not Christians. And also, it's unconstitutional to say something like that. And also, when he decided to say ban all Muslim immigration, that's also unconstitutional as well. And he was wrong to do that, and he was right to change his position on that. And his change of position does not justify his previous position on it. Just like his change of parties doesn't mean that he's entirely on whichever party. Just putting that out there. But he seems to have a special disdain for Muslims, okay? Muslims will not be allowed to the country if he is the president. Okay. Because of security issues and to prevent terrorism. So he's saying, ban the immigration of Muslims. Why? Security issues and to prevent terrorism. He's not saying that he hates Muslims. He's not saying that Islam is a bad religion. He's not saying that Muslims should die. He's just saying that security issues and prevent terrorism. He's not implying that all Muslims are terrorists. He's not implying that all Muslims are security risks. So, although this is getting borderline to the point of this is getting to the point of prejudice. He has gone to the point of prejudice at this point. He has not actually gone to the point of hate, of full-blown bigotry. But he has become a little bit prejudiced at this point, and his recent position has moved away from that. Quote, you don't need to give terrorists permission, end quote. Sure, of course you don't need to give terrorists permission. Quote, they just come and bomb you, and that is why they are terrorists. The banning of Muslim is a pure disdain of Donald Trump against Muslims, end quote. It's not necessarily disdain, it is prejudice, though. There's a big difference. Prejudice does not necessarily imply hate. But that's not to say that there aren't issues. Of course, it makes sense to ban immigration from places that there's a lot of civil unrest and a lot of terrorism going on. For example, Syria and Iraq. That makes sense. And in fact, that would make it harder for terrorists to go to the United States. And that is what Trump is trying to do. He's not saying that it will stop it. He's saying that it will make it harder. Just like blocking, controlling the U.S. border will make it harder for terrorists to get into the United States. Because, you know, eventually somebody is going to travel to Mexico, hop over border, and suicide vest. You never know. That is a literal possibility, and that is what they're trying to work against. Okay. Never thought I'd be defending Trump this hard, especially when I earlier said how much I disapprove of Trump. Number 8, all he cares about is immigration. As a responsible American, do you think that immigration to America should be stopped? I think that there shouldn't be any type of restrictions based on the movement of immigrants to America. Some people from troubled states move to America for shelter and safety. End quote. Okay, that is true. Some people in troubled states move to America for shelter and safety. Some people also in those troubled states decide to try to fix their country. Now, I'm not saying that it's wrong to leave a country when things go bad. I'm just saying that if there is a mass movement from your country when things go bad, who's actually trying to fix the problems? And also, as I said earlier, the reason why they want to restrict immigration to the United States is because it's a security risk. Because if you don't know who's coming across your border, you don't know who's coming in. You know, it might just be a family of people who are hardworking and want to be Americans and do great things in the country. It could also be a terrorist from the Middle East. It could be a Mexican drug lord. It could be someone who's doing human trafficking, which actually happens. I know that because Florida is a big place in human trafficking. I've never actually seen it, but I know that within 24 hours, most teenagers that get on the street are already captured by somebody. So, yeah, it's just a big risk. It's like having sex with strangers. You don't know what they've got. Could have STDs. Of course, I certainly don't go around doing any of that stuff, but it's similar. You have to screen who comes into your country. And also, mass immigration historically has been shown to cause lack of stability because it causes people who don't want to integrate with your country. They will cause political tension in your country. Roman Empire, massive example of this. Lots of Germans entering the Roman Empire. What happened? They set up their own countries inside Roman territory and ripped the country apart. And frankly, we don't want a repeat of this in any country, really, because that is not good. Okay. So he's saying all he cares about is immigration. Some people from the streets for shelter and safety. Okay, quote, while being responsible Americans, people should try to assist the immigrants, end quote. That's a good thing. It's a good thing to give aid to people who are in need of aid. Very good. But it's a bad thing if people come to your country and then live off of social welfare policies. That's a bad thing. We don't want that. It's bad for the economy. It's bad for taxpayers. It's eventually, if it increases, it eventually destroys the country. But it destroys it economically, not politically. Okay. Quote, immigrants build 40% of the Fortune 500 companies, and that is what make America what it is today, end quote. Please show me how many of these immigrants were illegal immigrants. I'd have to say not many, if any. Maybe a couple, who knows. Quote, their blood and their meat are connected by the advancement of America today, end quote. So again, these people are people that migrated to the United States because they wanted to live in the United States, and they followed the laws of the United States. And they immigrated legally, which is the issue. Legal. It's not simply about whether you hate people or whether you love people. It's also about justice and keeping your morals good, and in general, if a country is not a country of laws, then it's a country of just people who take power and do what they want. And you don't want that happening. That's how you destroy your country. Okay. Quote, there is another reason why he shouldn't be the president of America, because he doesn't know the facts of that America stand like a pillar. End quote. He's not saying that the United States is not a nation of immigrants. He's saying that there are people who come across the border and break the laws of America, and they can do this without anybody to stop them at their border. And there's people coming in and out of Mexico trafficking illegal drugs, people coming in and out of Mexico trafficking prostitutes, some of them underage, and he wants to put a stop to that. And who knows, maybe one day somebody will cross the border who's associated with a violent extremist group who can then kill a large number of Americans. Or again, gang wars have raged across the border, people going into U.S. towns in the southern U.S., not southern, southwest, and shooting up towns. This is something that has literally happened. And that's what these people are trying to stop. It's not about whether you want people to immigrate or not, because people do want people to immigrate. They want to have people who are willing to follow the laws of a country, but it's also about respecting the laws of a nation, the territorial integrity, and also ensuring that the culture does not collapse due to overburdenment. Okay. Because the US is a country in debt, so it's best not to increase that too much. Number 7, a joker by heart. We don't know that if he is serious enough with the presidential election or if he's just showing off. End quote. Yes, that is indeed a concern. In fact, some conspiracy theorists even told me that they thought that Hillary had hired Trump in order to throw the election. But at this point, it doesn't look like it. So I'm not willing to believe that at the moment. But never know. Quote, but one thing for sure, Donald Trump is a great on-screen joker. His face and hair support the fact he is a jest. Donald Trump is not a public figure who deserves respect. Moreover, he is just a joker who hosted a crappy show and built lousy hotels and golf courses. He was once a punching bag in a roast, and he has no shame for it. Not even a tint of professionalism in this man. How can you expect this man to be the president of the United States? This man in the White House will portray whole of America as a joke. And yes, Donald Trump has a sense of humor that sometimes goes way too far, in the sense that he ad hominems people when ad hominems are a logically fallacious argument, just like this ad hominem you, Monsignor Author, made right now. But, being a comedian, oh, sorry for the burps, being a comedian is not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't really insult him on his policies. His appearance is irrelevant to his leadership skills. Not that I really approve of his leadership skills. Seeing, again, when stuff starts going south in the country, not in the country, in his companies, he bleeds them dry and makes himself rich, which You wonder, how is that going to translate to leading a country? Well, let's just take a look at Africa. Some countries in Africa, and we'll know how that ends up. But enough of that. I don't think this number 7 argument is that much of a valid argument. He will stop the progress of America. There it is, progress. What we've all been waiting for, progressivism. That's right. Oh, wait, but Trump is a progressive. Oops, looks like somebody didn't read the memo. Quote, many of the Republicans think that just because he is a conservative when it comes to religion, he can force his views upon America. End quote. Who thinks that? Who thinks that Trump is going to force anyone to believe anything? How is Trump a religious fundamentalist? He is not. I think that's what you're implying here. He is not a religious fundamentalist by any stretch of the imagination. He is one of the least religious candidates that were in the primary. Quote, for the rest of the world, this thinking is scary. Donald Trump believes marriage is a closed affair. It should always happen between a man and a woman. End quote. I don't know exactly what his position on gays is, so I can't really comment on that. Maybe I should have looked it up beforehand. Quote, therefore, he is openly against the LGBT laws and the fundamental rights of homosexuals. End quote. What are you talking about? Donald Trump was in favor of letting non-gender binary people choose whichever bathroom they wanted to go into. Donald Trump was in favor of this. Donald Trump has been in favor of these LGBTQ plus whatever people. He's been criticized for it, in fact, by a lot of people who are conservative, because Donald Trump is not a conservative. He is a progressive. Thank you very much. Quote, he is a man whose thinkings are far from the late 18th century North Americans, but he unfortunately lives in 2016. So, if you are not white, or not Christian, or an LGBT, maybe it's time to leave America if Donald Trump becomes president. End quote. Mate, what are you saying here? So, you are not white. Donald Trump is not going out of his way to be racist to anyone. Or not Christian. Donald Trump is not a religious fundamentalist, nor has he been saying that Christianity is the only religion that should be used in the United States of America. Or an LGBT. Donald Trump has been supporting the LGBT community. Maybe it's time to leave America if Donald Trump becomes president. How can you find these arguments? There are so many good arguments against Donald Trump, and you keep messing them up. I think that this is going to have to be a two-parter, just simply because of the sheer volume of commentary that I have on this. So, you can follow me on Twitter, Gmail, and we'll see about this next time. Give on Patreon if you really want to. And also over and out.